What's up, everyone? Welcome to Bluegrass State of Mind, the show where three college roommates talk life, sports, and all the ridiculous things that happen in an apartment we like to refer to as Room 302. We're bringing you stories, hot takes, and the kind of late-night debates that probably should have stayed in the group chat.
So grab your headphones, sit back, and get ready for a wild ride through our past college life, sports, and everything in between. Let's get into it. This is Bluegrass State of Mind.
What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of Bluegrass State of Mind. Well, let's get into it tonight. We are going to start off with an update on Kentucky basketball portal. It's been a little while since we've talked about Kentucky basketball, just because we thought we were kind of finished for a little while. It seemed like, but one of the guys that we have picked up is by the name of Reese Potter. He is a 7-1 Miami, Ohio transfer. He is also a Lexington native from Lexington Catholic. Last year for Miami, Ohio, he appeared in 30 games, averaging 6.5 points, 3.7 rebounds, and 1.2 assists in just 17 minutes. He shot 46.6 from the field, and it looked like he can space out the floor a little bit. He shoots it at 36.7% of his 3-point attempts that he had. So I don't know. I'm gonna let y'all talk a little bit about it first. Kolton, what are your initial thoughts on picking up another 7-foot guy in Reese Potter?
Roster filler. I mean, really. I mean, maybe he's a Kentucky, he's a Lexington native. You got a couple more scholarships probably. I mean, you pretty much got the team you need already. I mean, if anything, you need another shooter, right? So, like, if you're bringing this guy in, I feel like you're kind of just at this point filling in spots and maybe some developmental players, fan favorites that might put some fans in the stand. Bring out, see a Lexington boy, get the teams excited. Say you have a Kentucky boy on the team. I just don't see the need for it. I mean, you already have. I mean, Jaden Quinton's is 6'10", and then you have Garrison at 7 foot and Moreno at 7 foot. So I mean, adding up pretty much a fourth 7-footer and probably the least skilled of all of them. I mean, I just don't. I mean, I don't see the need. So my guess is it's just this guy. He loves Kentucky. Pope probably, obviously these few extra roster spots they added this year to where you can have 15 scholarship players. It allows someone like this kid to maybe come and play for Kentucky. Probably grew up a Kentucky fan there in Lexington, and and who knows? I mean, maybe he's more. There's more to him than what we think. I just I doubt it, but I mean, he'd probably be one of those that maybe when we get up 30, come in and hit a few shots, and then people will be like, "Why isn't this kid playing some more? Play the Kentucky boy." Truth is, he probably don't need to be in. But I mean,
Yeah.
Here's the thing: is Miami, Ohio is a D1 team. They're always. I mean, they play a lot of like good teams, like early on in the schedule. Like they're one of those teams that get scheduled a lot. And if he appeared in 30 games, right? It's not like he just. I mean, not obviously only averaged 17 minutes, but he still played.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not saying he's probably not on their level, but I don't see much into this one.
Yeah. Mason, do you see anything?
No, I agree. I don't know a whole lot about him. I mean, I've seen some stuff. The only thing that kind of intrigued me a little bit was I'd seen like North Carolina had reached out, a couple other of like, I can't remember who, I think maybe Louisville had reached out to him, and then maybe like Gonzaga or somebody, so that kind of intrigued me a little bit, just thinking maybe, like, hey, let's get him in here for a year or two, develop him, and, in a couple years, he may be, starting center for us. I mean, he's got good size, obviously. So who knows what could happen? Obviously, like Kolton said, I think it's just kind of a roster filler for this season. Kentucky boy. I did read, he kind of turned down those other schools because he's been a lifelong Kentucky fan. So who knows what will happen here if he can come in, put some weight on, and, develop over a couple of years. But I agree. I mean, I don't think he sees the floor much this year, but it did kind of intrigue me that, those other schools were reaching out to him. Obviously, they had some interest for some reason. I don't know what it was. But if you have these other big-time D1 schools like North Carolina and Louisville reaching out, obviously there's maybe some potential there down the road. So,
Yeah, I agree. I just didn't really see the need of it. But I mean, like Cohen said, you have the roster spots, you're gonna fill them. Um, why not get a Kentucky guy who's grew up a Wildcat fan? The only thing I do have to say though is it is very interesting about what you talked about, Mason, about how other high level programs had reached out, but and then you talked about possibly developing here, but then I get to thinking, I'm like, is there even such thing as developing players anymore? I mean, and that's why,
Transfer.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, they like, so if he doesn't get in, is he gone next year? You know what I mean? Like, I don't really, and that's another thing, like, you hate to see, is that, this guy could possibly in 2 more years be a really good center for us, but we'll even get to see that in 2 more years. This that's kind of what I was sitting there thinking. I was like, well, are we actually going to be able to develop it, or is he just going to be a roster filler? And I think it's more of the roster filler thing. So, but you never know. I mean, you don't. So we'll see what Mr. Reese Potter can do for the next season. Um, anything else on him?
He will not be averaging 17 minutes a game
No,
at
it's probably
at
true.
Kentucky.
I agree.
Is there any other updates on the portal that we're missing? I can't. I'm not seeing anything. Have you all?
We're just waiting on
Mm,
Oway now. I think he has until
yeah,
what, May 29th to
yeah.
withdraw from the draft. I saw the last update. He was projected the last pick in the second round, or like second to last pick. Like 59th pick. So he'll definitely make more money if he comes back to Kentucky off NIL than being second to last pick in the NBA draft. So
Yeah.
hopefully we get him back. That's kind of, I think that's a big factor right now in our season next year, our roster, and kind of expectations going into next year. But we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Well, let's shift gears to the NBA playoffs. If you all have not been watching the NBA playoffs, because you may say like the NBA playoffs is not fun to watch, the NBA in general is not fun to watch, then you're missing out. The NBA playoffs have been a great playoffs, not just one or two series. Like most of all the series have been very good, in my opinion. And I know I watch NBA, but I'm not just like an avid like NBA lover. I just like watching the NBA and basketball in general. But it's been really good. One thing I want us to kind of talk about tonight is you see this kind of experience over young talent is prevailing in some series. But I just want to go ahead and throw these things out to you all. So, right now, we're currently in the second round of the playoffs. The best three teams in the NBA this year, in the Thunder, Cavs, and Celtics, are combined 5-1 in the second round. Celtics are, did I say that wrong, Colton?
One and
I
five.
mean, one
One
and
and five.
five.
Okay.
Yeah.
1-5. Sorry. Yeah, not 5-1. 1-5. Um, the Celtics are down 2-0 to the Knicks, and they both got to play, or both games were played at the Garden. And the Cavaliers are also down 0-2 against the Indiana Pacers, which was also played at the Cavs. And then the Thunder finally won their game last night, pretty handily won that game against the Nuggets. But that's the only win. Um, I think let's start with the Knicks and Celtics series. That's kind of one that's kind of everybody like it's a really good series, but kind of don't make sense. You're talking about a Knicks team who has struggled to make it a deep playoff run. I mean, they obviously always win the first series, it seems like, but then that second round they get beat, and they're always relevant. It seems like. And I know that we've talked about it on here before. It's good when the Knicks are relevant. It's good for the NBA. People like just the brand itself, the Knicks. Like people want to watch the Knicks. But more so than that, they've had two consecutive 20-point comeback wins. Both being almost like later in the third, not like being in the first half. Like it was like in the third quarter. And if you all watched, I watched both games and they've been unreal. Very, very similar in the way that the entire game played out. Um, the Celtics shot, I think it was 63s the first game, missed 45. I think that's right. And then last game, they shot 43s, I believe, or 40 something. So just a lot to unpack here. So I kind of want to hand it over to Mason. Mason, have you watched any of the Knicks Celtics? Have you watched a lot of it?
I've watched a little bit of it. I haven't got to watch a whole lot because of work and stuff. They're usually the earlier game.
Yeah.
But
Let's start with Kolton then. I want to start with Kolton because I know Kolton, he's shaking his head like he's watched a lot of it, and then I'm going to throw it to you. Don't get into any specific players. Just talk about the game, and then we'll get into that a little bit after this.
Yeah, um, obviously the big thing throughout the season, the Celtics were heavy favorites.
Yep.
Just because, I mean,
As they should be.
the Knicks, just every time they played the Celtics, you just see they weren't on that level. It was like a good team, but then it was like the Celtics are way up here, and the Knicks were just they were a step below. And so everyone had the Celtics as a heavy favorite, right? But the thing is, the Knicks have they have the key pieces it takes to win, right? You have a closer in Brunson. You have
Clutch
defense,
player of the year.
right? Right. I mean, Thibodeau is all about defense, and they're a good defensive team. OG Anunoby. You have the role players, Noby, Bridges,
Yep.
right? Josh Hart. You have three really good role players.
Well, if
And
you
then
think
you
about the
have
end of the games, though, defense has won
right,
it the past. Bridges, 2 clutch
exactly,
plays.
and you have an all-star center, right? The capability of being down low and um, knocking out the three with Towns. But so they had the pieces to be that. Here's the thing, though: the Celtics have a very specific style of basketball. They are
Yes.
going to shoot the three, and that's what they have lived and died by the whole year. And they have not changed who they were, and they haven't changed who they were in these two games. And the one way that you can let a team back in is shoot and
Shoot.
miss a lot of threes,
Suits right
right?
out
Because
of it.
you allow long rebounds, fast breaks, right, momentums, and that's what the Celtics have done. And I've watched a lot of the morning talk shows and different things, and they're talking about how in the locker room they're just baffled because they're doing what they said they want to do. I think they said Jalen Brunson shooting less than 35% from the field. They want Bridges taking more shots, which is what he's doing. They want their entire game plan is actually executing, with the exception of they're just not making threes.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like they're just sitting there not knowing what to do. And like I said, they've been up 20.
Yeah.
And so it's not like they've been up. So I don't know. I'll be honest with you. I think the Celtics win this series still. I really do. I know it's hard to believe that, but I think if they win this game
Well, it
three,
just takes one. It just takes one for them.
I think if they win game three, I think they win this series. I
If
really
you
do.
if you watched any of the TNT with Charles Barkley and Shaq,
Oh yeah,
that's what they talked heavily
where they
on.
said it's
Like that,
100, it's a must win game
it's
for
a
the
must
Knicks. It
win, and
is.
it was really good to hear about how Charles Barkley. He said, I've been in that position twice. He said I've been on the winning side, and I think it may be the losing side as well, or maybe he was both the winning sides. But either way, he was like, when you're sitting at and the team, obviously you don't want to tell yourself that oh, that team's better than me, but the reality is the Celtics are better than the Knicks. And whenever you have a chance to go up 3-0, there's a big difference. Going up 3-0, 2-1, all that momentum, the weight of New York. I mean, especially out of all the franchises in the it is heavy on New York. Um, Mason, what are some of your thoughts on that?
yeah, so I mean, my first initial take on this particular series is, from regular season to the playoffs in the NBA, you always see a little bit. It kind of seems like a little bit more intensity, right? A little bit more effort, especially on the defensive side of the ball. So I feel like the Knicks, that's kind of more of that benefits them more, right? Like they kind of play that scrappy style, like to get after it, play good defense, and the biggest thing to me in this series is had a 20-point lead in both games in the second half, right? I
Yep.
mean, obviously they're the better team. And they just haven't hit shots, in the second half, allowed New York to get some momentum. I mean, if they can just eliminate that, start hitting some shots, not go on these droughts, basketball's a game of runs. It's about
Yep.
who can withstand the longer runs, who can eliminate those. So I agree, Kolton. I think if they win this next game, they win the series. If not, then obviously, I think it's over. It's really hard to come back from 3-0. But that's the biggest thing for me in this series. Boston's been the better team for probably 85% of the game. They just got to eliminate those stretches where they go scoreless and, New York goes on
Yeah.
these big runs. That's the biggest thing for them right now. And I don't know who it is for Boston that needs to come. We'll get into that here in a minute about players specifically, but somebody has
Yeah.
to step up for Boston. You're such a good team. You have all these players who are great players. Somebody has to be able to step up and say, look, we got to end this run. That's what's killing us right now. Let's get this momentum back, and we'll easily close out this game.
Yeah. So didn't know this fun fact for you. Six consecutive NBA champions have been bounced out by the second round the next year. So that's what
Interesting.
I know that's what it said, which makes sense because I mean you haven't had back-to-back champions
Yeah.
since when?
Probably since the Heat.
Yeah, since I mean so
Didn't LeBron and them win back to back?
yeah, about 11 and 12, I believe. But one thing I also want to add is it's just some bad basketball, in my opinion. Um, and it's I think it might be like what in the world he's like. It might be some people may be surprised why I'm saying that because I'm a modern type of basketball guy. I love to see the three shot. I love the way that the game moves. It's so fast and it's more outside than inside. Like, I don't really talk a lot about like, just shooting mid range jumpers. But the Celtics, whenever they go on these droughts, they are settling so much and relying on that three so heavy that it completely takes out any other type of uh any other type of offense that they may want to run as far as getting in the paint and creating for outside threes rather than forcing them. And it's just bad basketball in my opinion. I think that, early on, if you watch that game, I think you look like, for example, you take Jalen Brown, you look at him and he was playing inside the out. Like he was forcing his way inside the paint because I felt like he's like, okay, I got to get going from the inside and then make my way out. And then as the game went on, it was like, oh, we're relying on the outside jumper. And then that's what causes those droughts. And I just think it's bad basketball. I do. Like, I'm not saying you got to live and die by the paint, but I mean, whenever you're not getting anything, be patient and get some offense going instead of playing one-on-one. I know that's what the NBA kind of is now at times, but in the playoffs, you can't have those droughts. You cannot go 5 minutes without scoring, let alone 7 to 8. And that's what they've done back-to-back games is they went 7 to 8 minutes without scoring. I guess that kind of leads us into our next topic with this we're going to talk a little bit about is, obviously you got to talk about Jason Tatum. Talking about a young guy who, early in the league, people were like, oh, man, this guy, he's a force to be reckoned with. And then the kind of everybody's like, he's got to get a championship. He's got to get a championship. And then he finally gets that championship. Um, and then you kind of look at this summer, whenever he went to the Olympics. And that was a big storyline is that a past champion or the champion of that year didn't even play in one of the games and then was barely even playing in any of the other games for the Olympic USA team. Out of all the players on that team, the one champion that you have that led the team to the finals. I'm gonna give a quick little my thought, and then I want y'all. I'm not a hater. I'm not. I I don't want to act like I don't like Jason Tatum because I think he's a good player. I don't want to be that type of guy because trust me, I hear people hate on LeBron and I can't stand it. Jason Tatum is a good player. He's a great player, I think. But with that being said, he's not that guy. He's not. Um, I think he wants to be. I do. Uh, he does shoot a lot of shots at the end of games. It's not like he's passing it off to not get shots up, but if you've watched, and that's something he's really had to work on is his 3-point shot. It's not falling at all. It's not fell for a couple of years now. I know last year in the playoffs he really struggled with, and that's when Jalen Brown was having to pick up the load for him. And if you watch the games, the past two games, I mean, they're not even close. Like they're hitting the back of the rim, and I think that's whatever when I refer to bad basketball, I think he's starting to settle in for his jumper. The dude is 6'9". Like you're a guard, you can get to the rim. I think he's a strong guard too. It's not like he's weak. Like and he has a great short jumper too as well. Like he has that little Dirk fadeaway he's worked on a lot. Like He's not that guy though, and that's just my opinion. I think he's a great, phenomenal player, but I just don't. I I don't know if the Celtics can make that full run again. They're going to have to change a lot if they're going to do that. They have not looked like last year's Celtics team at all thus far, and a lot of it's just shots ain't falling, which makes a big difference when shots fall. But it kind of you really find out who you are when that happens, when you hit that adversity. Okay, shots are not falling, we've got to find a way to do something else to find something that is working. That's where Coach Missoula, he's got to figure something out. Mason, what are your thoughts on specifically any players? Jason Tatum, Jalen Brown, anybody?
I'll just say, you may not say it, but Jason Tatum's overrated. I mean, I think a lot of that speaks to. Also, I'll say this: I think Steve Kerr's one of, if not the best coach in the NBA right now. Right, so it says a lot to me if you take this team to the Olympics and Steve Kerr's not playing this man, right? And one big thing that stands out to me, I know it's one play, one possession, but end of the game, Jason Tatum has a chance to go and take the lead or tie the game there at the end of the game, right? I think they were down one, so he had a chance to take the lead no matter what he does. Did y'all see? I mean, how loose he was with the ball? I mean, it was like I feel like I could have went out there and made a better play than he did. I mean, he makes a move and he almost loses it. He gets it back. You know, he's kind of losing it again. It was like he never made a good basketball move. He never had a chance to create a shot. And I feel like that's a lot of the Celtics struggles right now. Like, I feel like this team, you know, they're kind of designed to run. Yes, they have players around them. Derek White who can knock down shots. You know, you have Jalen Brown. You have Porzingis. You have Drew Holiday. I mean, you have all these pieces around you, but you have Jason Tatum struggling, right? He can't get by his man. He can't get an open look. He's OG Anunoby's guarding him a lot. He's a pretty good defender, you know. So if he can't get by, man, I mean, that just nobody's helping off of him, right? That doesn't create open looks, and I feel like that's a lot of what it was last year. You had Jason Tatum being able to create a lot of attention and draw other defenders, and that's what made their team so well. And yes, I mean, he's had a couple of good seasons, but I really and I never really thought he was, you know, a top five player in the league. Let's say I think that Jason Tatum is overrated, in my opinion. Maybe a hot take. Maybe he comes out the next 4 games and proves me completely wrong. But I just think there are probably 7, 8 players better in the league right now than him, just from
Well, I
watching him.
see, and that's where I agree to disagree with you. And what I mean by that is like I agree with you that he is overrated, but I disagree in the fact that we're saying that he's overrated because I really don't think people in the NBA truly think Jason Tatum is a top 10 player. I don't. I don't think people around the entire league think Jason Tatum is all that. I think that there's a level of respect that they have for him and think, oh yeah, he's a great player, he's an all-star. But I don't think that there's many people who would be like, "Oh yeah, Jason Tatum, he's a dude, he's that guy."
Right. And I agree. Like, for example, like let's say you switch him and SGA. I think the Celtics become better and the Thunder become worse. You know, like I just Jason Tatum, I just feel like yes, he's a good player. Don't get me wrong, but I just feel like you have to have the right pieces around him and other guys who can, you know, like the Thunder outside of SGA, like Jalen Williams has come on quite a bit, but outside of him, you got a bunch of guys who are just athletes and kind of, you know, role players, and SGA just kind of creates and controls the game for the rest of the Thunder.
It would be interesting if you were to take a Jalen Brown off the Celtics to see what Jason Tatum really
Absolutely.
would be made of. I think.
I think the Celtics are middle of the pack in the East if you take Jalen Brown off. My honest opinion.
But then Jalen Brown is also hit or miss. I mean, he's not
Oh, I
performed
agree.
very well these
That's the thing with the
playoffs.
Celtics. Like they don't have any really like star like studs, you know, like people that I think you can put on a team and they can kind of, you know, carry you to not saying a championship, you know, but kind of carry you through the playoffs, get to that Eastern or Western Conference Finals. Like I feel like both of them are very, you know, hit or miss, hot or cold. You know, they have their nights where they go off for 40 or 45, but they also have their nights where they may only score 15. And that's just I think that's
Consistency.
yeah.
Yep. Colton.
Yeah, I mean, here's my thing on Tatum. Uh, I do think you're right. I do think a lot of it is a product of the guys he's around, but I don't think it's meaning that I just don't think he's had to, right? Like, you see some of these guys become studs and stars because they, like, have to be the guy.
And then they
right?
eventually go out and build the team around them.
Right. Like
The
they
team was
have
already
to.
built for him when he got there.
Right. I mean, you take. I mean, Derek White is a great shooter. Jaylen Brown is a great player. We didn't even
Drew
mention what's
Holiday.
really Drew Holiday. But we didn't really mention what's really hurting him is Porzingis being like sick or whatever's wrong with him.
Yep.
Right. I mean, I mean, you like they have all these weapons, so like Tatum doesn't have to go be that guy, and he's at his best version if he doesn't have to be, right? Like, that team should never have to have one single player take over. But what's happened is they've missed these shots coming down the stretch, and they've put it in Tatum's hands, and he hasn't been ready for the moment. Granted, he hasn't had to, right? Like, a lot of these guys, you take like an Ant Edwards, right? I mean, he's had moments when he's had to go, like, take over games, but who else would have on the Wolves, right? I mean, you don't have that another guy like that on the Timberwolves. Well, Jaylen Brown can go for 25 any given night, right? Derek White has 30-point games. Porzingis has 25-point games. Drew Holiday has 20-point games. I mean, you have all these guys. So here's the thing about Tatum. I do think what the league sees in him is that at, what is he, 6'9"?
Yeah, he's about 6'8", 6'9".
I do think he stands out, though. Like, I really do. And the reason I say that is because I think you can watch him and say that there's something special about him. Like that, like I think he's going to be I just don't think he's had to yet. And maybe that's going to come with maturity. Maybe that comes when he realizes that, like, eventually the Celtics are going to split up. That core is going to split up. There's going to be changes. Someone's going to go. Brown, they're going to lose, and they're going to have to see what they're made of. But I do think, I mean, 6'9", and Tatum can do it all he has shown that he can do everything if he wants to. But I just think that he hasn't had to so far. And when you have that type of team, you don't have to. And you don't want him to have to, because, like, the Celtics are not going to be at their best if Tatum's trying to get 45 every night. But the Celtics are at their best if he gets 25 and Jaylen Brown gets 25 and Derek White gets 20 and Porzingis gets 20. That's when the Celtics are at their absolute best. But if Tatum goes for 45 and Brown goes for 10 or 15, that's not what they're looking for. They're looking for four guys across the board dropping at least 15 points. Like, that's their recipe for success. And so I'm not saying Tatum shouldn't go take over games like that at times, because he has the capability, but it's a totally different mindset when you look around and say any four of these guys on this court with me can make this shot.
But
So, like,
who are they building the team around? Like, who's their number one? Like, they're focusing around Jason Tatum, and he's 27 years old. I mean, he doesn't have. I mean, he probably has 5 years left of his prime. Like, he's got to prove this at some point. Like, at some point, this is technically his team. Like, yes, you have Jaylen Brown. Yes, you have these other players. But, I mean, you're getting paid these big bucks to do stuff like this in the playoffs right now. Like, the last possession he had against the Knicks the other night, that was pitiful. That was just I mean, it looked to me like I said, I mean, he never had good control of the ball. I mean, he was loose with the ball. He never had a chance to get a good shot off. He was going to take a fadeaway, and then he tried to bail it out and pass it. Like that's what you're the superstar, right? You're on the Olympic team. You're the guy making the All-Stars every year. Like, everybody's looking to you to go make that play, and you don't. You've got to develop that, or
right. And maybe it's, that we talk about some guys in the league not having that killer instinct. And that's maybe what he had. But like I said, it's hard for me to sit there and say, because how many of these guys have this killer instinct that also have a team full of all-stars, right? Like, I mean, it's just different. Those killer instinct guys seem to come from the guys that were ISO players that had to go be the dog. They didn't have no choice. I mean, that's where I'm at. Because, I mean, SGA, when you take SGA, he's been in the league now 7 years, 8 years, right? We're just now getting the best version of SGA the last couple of years. And it wasn't that he was a bad player, but, I mean, he's just kind of developed now. Like, he got to a team where he had to be the dog, right, with the Thunder when they were down, and now they've built around him. Well, Tatum just hasn't ever had to be. And I'm not saying I want the Celtics to lose some players and go watch Tatum be the dog, but I mean they've signed him, and I mean I think him and Jaylen Brown combined for $100 million, just them two. Like, I mean they've signed them both, so I mean I think that's just a product of it. I think Tatum is a good player. I think he probably lacks a little bit of that killer instinct, but I don't know that it's a result of he doesn't have it, or it's a result of he has been so reliant and so much on the surrounding pieces that he just hasn't done it.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I don't want to add any more to it. Y'all have talked a lot about it, and I have as well. But so it's a very good series right now. And then we don't have to get in this one as much because I don't think it's as much into it. I think, honestly, I think injuries is killing the Cavs right now. I mean, with Mobley out, Darius Garland out. I mean, there's your two of your three star players are out. I think that's what the headline is. I,
They've given up some leads too.
Yeah, they
Both
have.
these series,
They were up
it's
8 points or 7 or 8 points with like a minute left and had full control of the game. And then honestly, what it became is a shooting a game again. Like they was missing shots. They were and
that's the thing about the
just
Knicks
bad
and the
basketball.
Pacers. They're both just scrappy teams, right? I mean, they have a couple guys who are good players, but
Yeah.
they don't have any like standout, top 10 players in the league. They're just
But
scrappy teams who play
They
hard.
had Halliburton who didn't play even as much as Jason
Yeah,
Tatum did.
Yeah,
yeah. The difference
yeah.
with those type of teams is the Knicks and Pacers both, they put together 5 guys that could start for any team, but they don't have a stud like a star. But like Halliburton is going to start wherever he goes. Pascal Siakam would be a starter, right? Like they're going to be starters. Then you take Towns, Brunson, starters, right? OG Anunoby, probably a starter. Like I mean that they've just got guys that would start at any team. They just don't have the guy.
And that
But give me 5 guys that could be starter for any team in the league. I mean,
and that brings me to another point. Like you talked about Dillon, like 101, like ISO ball. That's a lot of the NBA, and I feel like these teams, like the Knicks and Pacers, yeah, they have Brunson who can go get a bucket. Yeah, they have Halliburton who can go get a bucket. But like I feel like throughout the season, they kind of run more kind of fluid offense. Trying to run some sets, get some good looks. And these other teams like the Celtics and Nuggets and things, they have these guys who can go one on one and try to get good looks. And you have the Knicks and the Pacers who they have these sets and run more consistent offense, so they're used to doing this.
Yeah. It will be very interesting with both of those two series shifting to the other teams,
2-0.
yeah, going down 2-0 to see how they respond to that. But looking forward to it. Going to be a just great series, I believe. Colton, why don't you bring us into the NFL talk that we're going to have tonight? We had an interesting pickup for the Dallas Cowboys. Go ahead and lead us into that one.
yeah. So Cowboys actually finally made a decent move. They have went and got George Pickens for a 3rd round pick, and I think they've had they gave up a late round pick, but also got like a 6th round pick in return. Like they got Pickens and like a 6th rounder, and gave up a 3rd rounder and like a 5th rounder or something like that. So yeah, crazy. I mean, Pickens is showing a lot of promise. Obviously, he's had some probably attitude issues on the sidelines there.
A little dramatic.
He's a little dramatic. Which fits the Cowboys, right? I mean, they're the national media team.
Yeah.
The noise, all the storylines, but man, I mean, now, I mean, there's just a lot to this because you had Pickens and DK Metcalf on the Steelers, and it was like they're just waiting on Rodgers, right? And trying to find a quarterback. Well, now all of a sudden you got Pickens, and that Steelers job does not become so appealing because I mean DK Metcalf's there, but I mean you don't have a lot of guys around him. But now the Cowboys all of a sudden they went from being in the NL East that is getting better with Jaden Daniels and the Eagles being the Super Bowl champs. Now all of a sudden Pickens gets to be a 2 because CeeDee Lamb's on the other side of him. And you have Jake Ferguson, who's probably a top 5 tight end in the league now. I mean, I don't know that they have the running back room figured out yet. I want to see them do that. But, man, I mean, I think it's great for the Cowboys. The Steelers, it makes me just wonder how bad some of the issues were internally with Pickens. Because if you're that talented and that young of a player and someone like Mike Tomlin moves off of you, then there's probably been issues there. And I mean, I saw that where they were talking about how do you think Rodgers had an influence? Because does that
Saw
not
that
seem
too.
like a kind of player where they could bump heads easily,
Absolutely.
and they may have. And so if they thought that that was going to be an issue, like Rodgers didn't want to work, or Pickens was in there saying, don't bring Rodgers in. I don't want that guy. I don't want him. And they pretty much was like, all right, we're going to choose to bring in a quarterback, or we're going to choose to keep this guy. Ultimately, they got rid of Pickens. So, I mean, I think it'll be exciting to see the Cowboys offense now. I think they got, I mean, I think the Cowboys have a chance to be an 8 to 10 win, fight for that last wild card spot now with that type of offense. If they got any type of defense at all, Steelers, unless they get another weapon, I mean, it's not a very appealing job right now with the offense that they have. So,
Yeah, I mean, I do think the Cowboys did get better. I do. I Here's my only thing with the Cowboys still is, you talk about, do they have the running back room figured out? My thing is, do they have the quarterback room filled out still?
Bingo.
And I want. I'm not a Cowboys fan, but I do like when the Cowboys are good.
I think it's good for the league.
It's just good for the league. It's like the Knicks. I mean, they're good for they, even
big
if you
market teams,
yes, even if you
they're
don't
good for the
like them,
league.
they're good for the
Right.
organizations around them in the entire league. And I want to like Dak Prescott. I do. I think Dak is a good guy. I think that um, you talk about kind of a guy who's come like out of nowhere, almost in a sense. And he's went through some injuries. Like he's really had to fight adversity at times. But man, it just seems when the moment is there, it's just like he ain't ready for it. And I, it almost is just like, when's Jerry Jones going to figure out this is not my guy? Even though I would want it to be, like I do. Like I said, I like Dak Prescott. I think he's a good guy, and he's a good football player. Uh not last year, but the year before, I mean, he was tearing it up in the regulars. Like he has potential, like he does. He throws a good ball. He doesn't really, I mean, obviously he doesn't use his legs a lot, but that's okay. Like he is a pocket passer, and he has CeeDee Lamb in a weapon. And they have the makeup of a Super Bowl potentially winning team. I mean, their defense sometimes is hit or miss. It seemed like, but I think the quarterback room is more important than the running back room itself. I think the wide receiver. I think they have a lot of things figured out. It's just, are they going to be able to have Dak Prescott behind them and lead them to a Super Bowl, or even at that? What stat is it? Uh, they're the only team in their division who hasn't made a finals. Is that right?
Yeah, they haven't
NFC
made a
championship.
NFC championship since what, 99 or
99.
something like
I
that.
was gonna
It
say,
may have
yeah, I think
been
it's 99.
how
I think
long
it's
has it been?
99. That's been
I
Emmett.
mean,
I mean, that's Emmett Smith. That's like
yeah, I
that
know.
type of
But you think about the Commanders, they
point.
made it last year.
Yeah, I mean, obviously
Then you
Giants won the
have
Super
the
Bowl a couple
Giants.
years, and Eagles have won the
Uh,
Super Bowl. So I mean, they've all been there.
so yeah, that's my thing. That's my biggest take on that. Go ahead, Mason.
No, I agree. I mean, I think that it's a good move for them getting George Pickens. Obviously, that helps take some of the load off of CD Lamb there on the outside. And maybe that helps Dak Prescott. But I agree with Dillon. I mean, he's the highest paid quarterback in the league right now, and to do that when he hasn't done anything in the postseason is just ridiculous to me. I know Jerry Jones does things differently, than a lot of other owners and things in the league. But to pay him that kind of money, and I know he's had a couple of really good, regular seasons. And he was great in college. I mean, Dylan, you pointed out he's not really mobile, but he was in college. I don't know if y'all remember him at Mississippi State. I mean, he was a dual threat quarterback, and uh, I don't know. I mean, that's the biggest thing to me. Yes, I think a running back would help figure some of that out. I think right now some of those defensive linemen are just pinning their ears back and, bearing down at him, and that probably has something to do with it because they haven't really had a run game the last year or two. But I think this will definitely help him out on the offensive side of the ball with having more options and people getting open. So we'll see what happens. He just has to show that he can perform in the postseason. He's done it in the regular season. Just carry that over when the pressure's on, and the whole fan base and the organization's kind of riding on you to perform because he hasn't done that yet. So we'll see if this helps him out. I think it will, but like I said, the biggest thing for me is getting that running game going and not allowing defenses to just pin their ears back and come back at you every time because you can only pick up 2 or 3 yards on the ground every play.
Yeah. And I didn't even talk about George Pickens that much because I got into Dak. But I George Pickens, I I know it's the Steelers. I had him on my fantasy league 2 or 3 times. He's
He's a diva.
and yeah, he is. And also here he's kind of a there would be games where he does absolutely nothing, but then he's electric in other games. I do though like that him and CeeDee Lamb are kind of opposites. I feel like
That's
you
a
talk about
deadly duo.
yeah, like George Pickens. What he's like 6'4". I mean he's a big
Yeah.
dude.
Yeah.
And long. I mean he can
I,
jump.
I think I think he's getting an upgrade at quarterback too.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
Oh
for
yeah,
you
sure.
for
know,
sure. Yeah.
like I think because that's the Cowboys got in a tough situation where it is really hard to find a franchise quarterback, and they found it. Like Dak is a franchise quarterback, but obviously the postseason success is what a lot of people will judge you on and talk about. But come off of what 3 straight 12-5 seasons, or I mean he's won all these, but it's just you think about all these teams who haven't been able to figure out the quarterback since maybe their franchise guy left, right? I was thinking, I was thinking about the Titans. They haven't had their franchise guy since Steve McNair. Really, truly, haven't had a franchise guy. The
It's been
Steelers since
20 years.
the Steelers since Roethlisberger retired.
Yeah.
Giants since Eli Manning left his prime. Right, like they're searching year in, year out. The Raiders, right? All these teams. I mean, the Saints since Drew Brees
Hey,
retired.
who have the Raiders? Who I can't even remember who the last
Right,
Raiders
right.
quarterback
Who was? I
was.
mean, Derek Carr was their best cute, but before that, it
I
was
don't
back
even
when they
count Derek
probably went.
Carr.
Right, it was back when whoever took them to the AFC Championship against like the Patriots in that snow game, the
They've
tuck
been
rule that was developed.
Easter egg
Um,
hunting, boy. They're searching for.
but
They've been
but
searching a
that's what I'm
while.
saying. So like when you're the Cowboys, that's a scary place to get to. Like when Dak is good enough to win you regular season games
Get you to
and
the
be your
playoffs.
franchise guy, right? Get you to the playoffs. It's hard to not pay. Like because you're forced to. I mean, that's the market. That's the business side of it. Like it's either that or he walks, and then all of a sudden, do you go through 6 years of looking for a quarterback? You know, and
Oh yeah.
that they got in a tough situation with Dak, and you didn't really need to pay him that much, but when you get in a situation of it's either we pay him or we possibly go 6-11 for 6 straight years. I mean, it's a tough choice to make, but I like Dak. I do think he's got to prove it in the playoffs, and I do think he's an upgrade from Russell Wilson and what was throwing at George Pickens. So
Yeah, I agree. All right, well, let's get into our next segment. We're going to be talking about the Truist Championship. This is a elevated event. It is a signature event, one of 8 throughout the entire season. This is actually being played in Philadelphia at the Cricket Club's, and I can't say this word probably, Wissachicken course. Usually it's actually held at next week's PGA Championship, Quail Hollow Golf Club in North Carolina. So that's different for because of that. That's going to be occurring next week. Um, like I said, this is one of 8 signature events, which means that there's only 72 golfers in the field. There are no cuts this week, and it's increased prize money. Right now, when you all hear this, it'll be uh, Friday morning, but we have the first day played. You have Keith Mitchell, who is leading the tournament at 9 under, Denny McCarthy at 8 under, and then a bunch of 7 unders with Colin Morikawa leading it. What, Colton?
and my boy Ricky,
And Ricky, yeah, Ricky. Well, that's the first one that's on my board, but yeah, Ricky's on there too. Yeah. Um, but before we get into the actual players and the tournament itself, Mason, I want you to bring up and talk a little bit about uh, Eric Van Ruvian, however you say his full name's comments. And also, I don't know if you all saw Lucas Glover also had very similar comments that they asked him, and they're very similar as Van Ruvian. And what that is it's kind of talking about the signature event, the amount of players in it. But Mason, I want you to kind of talk a little bit about that and lead us into that.
Yeah, so first I want to throw it to Colton because he knew a little bit more about it than I did about like, kind of why this happened and things. So Colton, give us a little background about why this happened and then I'll talk about, kind of what Van Ruin was saying.
Right. So I guess it's been going on for right at 3 years now. Just not long after Live Golf broke off and started, the PGA had to counter. Right. All of a sudden, a few of these bigger stars are getting pulled away because of money, and then you started having these guys that the PGA Tour started, panicking and like we can't afford to lose these guys. So like, how do we keep them? Right? And that's when you had like the players board where like Rory and some of them were pretty much calling for, all right, we've got to get all these guys together and have them play in the same tournaments. Like now, since we've lost some of their main guys, we've got to make sure that the guys we have left are all playing the same weekends. And then there's like, and we have to give them something to play for, right? Give them a reason to stay on the PGA Tour and not go take these so like increase the purse money. And so essentially the signature events were born. And what it is essentially it's the top. If you finish in the top 30 in the FedEx Cup the previous year, like you make it to the Tour Championship, you automatically qualify for the signature events. If you're top 50 in the world, you automatically qualify for the signature events. And if you have a win in the season, like the current season, you automatically qualify for the signature events. And then there's a few like special exemptions and like based on where you finished, in the previous events or something like that. And what it is essentially it's a bunch of no-cut events. They now require, like if you fall into that category, the guys I just named, you're only allowed to miss, I think, one, maybe two of those signature events, and you have to play in the others. If you're not, you're fined $3 million. So Rory didn't play in RBC Heritage the week after the Masters,
Scotty's not
rightfully
playing this week.
understanding. And he missed he got fined $3 million, but because Rory didn't play at the Century Tournament of Champions, so that was his second one missed. So Scotty is not fined this week because it's the first one he's missed. So, well, he was technically injured for the Century, so he didn't like that. They didn't go against him, but like you can't miss a second one. Rory got fined because he had already missed one, so he got fined for another one. So like, but what it's done is it's increased these purses. Now, what used to be if you won was like 1.5 million, is like 4.5 million or $4 million now for the winner. I mean, they've increased these purses. What they've done is got all these good guys, the best players in the world, all in the same tournament. And truthfully, it's worked. I mean, some of these y'all get in. I mean, you can get into the comments. We'll let Mason get in the comments, and we'll talk about it. But
Yeah.
it's entertaining, and he'll get into the comments. But go ahead, Mason.
Yeah, so basically, they after Eric Van Rooyen, he placed second last week at the tournament, and that basically qualified him for this week for him to be able to play in this. And they asked him about it, how do you feel about these signature events, this tournament next week? And he was like, well, how honest do you want me to be about it? He was like, I hate it. And basically he came out and said, like, there's so many good players on the PGA Tour that, why are we limiting to the only, the top 50, 60 players, whatever it is currently at this time, with these exemptions. He was like, given the amount of talent that's on the PGA Tour, I want the strongest field in the game every single week. And for me personally, I mean, I kind of agree with him. Like, I get the bigger purses and the bigger payouts. Like, I get that, trying to compete with Liv. But if we're talking about, like, viewership-wise, like, I do not get that at all. Like, last week, I think I saw something where Bryson DeChambeau, who's probably, the biggest player on Liv right now, right? Probably the biggest biggest guy that people want to tune into and watch.
Yeah, for sure.
He won last week. He was leading going into Sunday. He won last week. And I think on Sunday, the final round, they averaged 40,000 viewers.
Yeah.
The last round at the PGA was like 2.1 million, last weekend when Scotty was playing. Like, I guess I get it coming from a prize, money standpoint, but as far as like viewership goes, like Liv's never going to compete with the PGA Tour, you know, and I feel like it limits some of the opportunities for some of these other guys, right? You know, that may not be in that, but they're still grinding every single week. They're coming out, they're playing. You know, give them an opportunity to make the cut. This is how some of these guys make a living. You know, like these guys who may not make a cut every week, like they're counting on making cuts at some of these events to be able to, you know, keep playing and afford things. So I get it in a sense, but at the same time, like I don't know why you would limit the field when there's so much talent here on the tour. Is my biggest thing, I guess I'm getting at with this.
Yeah, so I'm gonna take it from a different standpoint. I totally like I understand this is how some guys are, this is how they're making a living. I understand that in order to succeed you have to have the opportunities. I totally get that. But here at the same time, I totally disagree with him. I think he's being a baby. I think he just needs to put on his big boy pants and he just needs to play better golf. If he wants to be in a signature event and be with the best players, which are the best field, I think that contradicts everything he's saying. That makes no sense to me. Why in the world, as a viewership of golf, would I want to watch a field with what he's so-called saying? There's the PGA Tour has so many good players in it. Yeah, they have so many good players in it, but how many of them are consistently playing good golf? Well, I'll tell you how many of them are playing consistency good golf. It's the players who are ranked the top 50 in the world. It's the players who have won an event, probably. It's the players who are winning the FedEx. So that contradicts everything he's saying, like, in my opinion. It makes no sense. If you want to be in those elevated events and have a chance to win a bigger purse, play better golf. Like, it's simple. That's all it had. I mean, I don't think that is anything crazy to say. It's pretty simple, in my opinion. And now I say that with a humbling heart, like understand, like yes, some of these guys who, is it Peter Molinari who won last year with
Peter Malnati.
yeah, like that guy, like I remember, like they saying, like I watched a little story on him, like he hadn't won in forever, and like he was struggling. Like I mean, he was not making any cuts, and like just that one win changed everything. I have a heart for that. I totally get that. But we're not talking about doing every tournament like this. This is just 8 tournaments of the year. Now, if we was doing every tournament, like yeah, that would be totally unfair. That's not how the PGA Tour. But Colton talking about how like it's made it more interesting. Like how many times has anybody turned on the Truist Championship and it's probably going to be as much viewership probably as it has in a long time. How the RBC Heritage, I know it's a very popular tournament, but up until talk about signature events, like it's made some of these events more intriguing. Like it brings the viewership. The reasoning behind it of why they done it, I agree, Mason, with you. Like it don't really make much sense since like Liv's not going to compete with them. But I'm taking it in the perspective of like I think Van Ruvian's being a baby. I mean, I think that he's just not as good as some of these guys. And if you want to play, you got to play better golf. Simple as that. That's my
Yeah.
opinion.
Well, I mean, the truth is, the PGA Tour did what they had to do to keep their good players left. Because here's the thing, the PGA Tour doesn't care if Eric Van Rooyen goes to live. They don't.
Nope.
That's not going to affect them at all. But what it would if Colin Morikawa goes, if
Or
Xander
Ricky
Schauffele
Fowler.
goes, or Ricky Fowler, it's going to affect them if they do. Why Ricky got a special exemption? This is like he's got a special exemption or a special invite into like all but one signature event this year. Why do you think that is? Is because Ricky's got a big following of fans, who's a big fan. But like I get like the PGA Tour grind. Like I get why they don't like it, but at the same time, if Eric Van Rooyen, and thing is Liv's not coming after Eric Van Rooyen. Liv's not coming after. They're not going to get. So like the PGA Tour was in a win-win. Like it was like we're going to do this to keep our top guys, and if Liv actually comes, then you have the right to go. But they're not calling your name anytime soon, so you better play better. I I get it. Like I feel bad for some of the ones the ones I feel bad for are the ones that fall just outside of it. But like if you're number 120 or 160 in the FedEx Cup, I mean, like, what do you
No
want? Like, I
business.
mean, right? Like, to me, I mean, at that point, like, it's the same way. Like, if I'm going to turn out, if Scotty's not in that if Scotty's not in that final group last week, like I'm not probably watching Sunday, and I love it. I love golf, but I'm probably not watching Sunday if Scotty's not in that final group. And this week's final group, heck, you may get Rory and Keegan Bradley and Morikawa or something like that in the final group. I mean, that's
Mhm.
a much better.
Mason, do you think though, like I do you think what his statements make sense though? Like, or you agree with me that it kind of contradicts the stoutest or like the stoutest field in the game? I don't think that makes any sense to me. I mean, you agree? You may
Well,
disagree. That's fine.
well, I agree in a sense, but the thing is, like, it's golf. We've talked about this before. Like, any guy can come out one week and have a good week. Like who knows? Like, they're on tour because they are really, really, really good at golf, right? Yeah, like, yeah, they may not be the best players. They may not be top 100 in the world, but they could come out on any given day and shoot 63 or 64 and have a good weekend and come out and win. So, I mean, I get it in the sense of why they're doing this, but like, it's not it's not that big of a difference money wise compared to what Liv are paying these guys. Like you talked about Rory, like or Ricky, who has this big following. Like they pay players for the what is it, the PIF, like
Pip,
the interactions that they get. The PIP, is that what it's called?
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, like they have all these things set in place that they do get paid some for other things other than based on their performance. So I feel like now the PGA Tour is feeding into what Liv's doing. Like Liv's kind of baiting them into this. Like spend more money. Like keep spending more money. That's what we want you to do. We got deeper pockets. These guys in Saudi. I mean, no telling how much money they have, and I think Liv is eventually going to fall out. But I feel like the Liv is just kind of baiting them into spending and putting more money in, more money in, more money in to try to keep some of these guys, and that's what Liv's wanting them to do. Like, we've taken some of your players. If you don't keep dumping money into this, then we're going to keep taking some of these players. So, I mean, I get it in a sense. Like, you want to have these tournaments, but I also feel like that's what the majors are for, right? Like, you have these majors where these top guys are going to be the ones who compete in those majors, right? You have the FedEx Cup playoffs. These top guys are the ones who are going to compete in that. Like, why are we making these extra events just because Liv started this? Like, why are we even competing with this when they're nowhere close to
right.
us?
Do you not
Well, I
like
think
them?
that's why though. I mean, because think about how much we look forward to the majors, right? But it's only 4 tournaments of the 30.
I
Like,
agree,
Yeah.
but I don't give a crap about this truist. It means nothing to me. Like, even though it
yeah,
has a top
I
60,
I bet that you care more about it than the John Deere Classic.
I, I
I can
mean,
guarantee it.
maybe a little bit, but the John Deere Classic is still going to have more viewers than the Live. So why are we even trying to compete with these guys right now? That's my point.
Mason, I totally disagree, man. I love the
Yeah,
signature events. I think it's
I do too.
intriguing. I agree with Cole. There's no like you got four majors
But
out of the
why?
30 starts. Because Mason, like you have the best players in
But
the
guess
like
what?
on the PGA in
But
the
guess what?
field.
These best players have the opportunity to play in every other tournament.
You
You
are
still
right,
have these.
but they don't. But they don't. So this is why they created this. Like we have a reason for them. They must
Yeah,
play in it.
they
Like that's the
have to
whole
play in
point. They
this.
have to. Like that's the point. Like you want them to play. Obviously, they have the opportunity, but they
But
wasn't
but
until
see,
this.
I feel like that kind of goes against like some of these guys who are saying like, I mean, like I don't like playing every single week. Like why can't I go to Live and I make $10 million and I only got to play
It may be.
so
I
many
Well,
weeks a
agree,
week?
but
right.
Why are we
I
buying in?
thought that though, but
We're buying
live
into this Live stuff and fighting against them when there's no point. Like, there's no
right,
point in even competing against them. They're not close. Who cares? Like,
right.
it's eventually going to die out. Like, like all these guys that went to Live, what? Probably 75% of them regret going there.
Yeah,
Besides these guys who aren't going to compete anyways.
right.
yeah, but we're in agreement with you on that. But I will say this: I think if you were to put a vote for PGA audience, if they love the signature events, you're going to have a stout outing saying I think it'd be like
But why?
85%. There's
But why?
they don't have to be a why. I mean it's just
But
because
Well, I
why?
mean,
But why do you make it only the top certain amount of players? Just require so many events a year that they have to play in and let 150 guys play in it. It's the same thing.
it's like last week, right? Scotty, it was a signature event. Scotty played. That's a top player. Like you had Jordan Spieth, you had Siwoo, you had about six pretty good guys, and then the rest of the field was just
I get that. I
below
get that
average guys.
completely.
So I mean,
Why are we
I
limiting
think my
it to
thing is with it
only
is like
so many players?
you take like live, like that was my thing. Like people when they went to live, they was like, we want more off time. Well, the thing with live though is they have 14 events that travel the entire country. So they have to travel the entire country, and most of them play in the 4 majors. So that's 18, but they have to play in every event.
Yeah.
They get fined. So they have to guarantee 14 events plus those 4 majors is 18 events. Well, heck, like Rory just plays in like 20, right? So like all these guys, they were like, we want to leave, PGA and go play, but that's what Liv's doing. They force them to play in all 14 events. They have to play in every single event that they host. They have to travel across the entire world to play in these events. So I mean, that's kind of where the PGA was like, well, why can't we require we host 52 weekends of the year? Can we not require our top players to work 20 of them? On on 8 of the same.
I'm not disagreeing with that. I guess my biggest thing is like, why are you limiting it to only these certain amount of players? Like, put more players. Like, it's exciting, when you get some guy that just jumps up there and he's like, oh, he's playing a great round of golf. Let's see if he can go out there and compete and win. The pressure, the Sunday going up. Him paired with Scotty. You find out new stuff about these players who have never been here before. Like, I don't understand why they're only limiting it to a certain amount of players. Like, I get if you want to make them play in a certain amount of events.
Ticket sales too, man. I'm telling you, like if Scotty and Rory missed the cut at a 140 player event, how many people are hardcore fans? It's like, I'm not going Saturday and Sundays. My favorite player's not even there.
Most of them probably already bought tickets to that. I mean, if they're there.
But what I'm saying is they're trying. I mean, that's what I'm like. But how many more players? Like, you all of a sudden you may be like, oh man, like, do you want to try to go Saturday? Because I mean, my guy's up there leading. Like, I'm a Ricky fan. Like, right now, I'm looking at this tournament. If I was up there, I'd be like, oh man, Ricky gonna be in the final group? Can I get a ticket?
I get the money side of things. I just feel like they're feeding into this live, kind of pressuring them into this type of things, and that's what gets to me.
I do think that you are correct. I think Liv did pressure them into it, but then I do see the part of it though as like where it's like, okay, this was a great move for us. Like, there's no reason for us to even retract it. Like I mean, I think they're thriving.
I mean, big winners on all of them.
Yeah,
right? Rory at Pebble Beach and Ludwig at the Torrey Pines, where they moved Genesis to, and like your big guys are winning the big events. And I mean, that's watching those guys come down the final stretch on Sunday is a lot more fun than watching Eric Van Ruin.
Yeah, I just think he needs to play better golf. Simple as that. I need to play better golf. Simple as that. But
Same.
I'm not on the PGA Tour. So, all right. Well, we are running out of time. So that is going to conclude this episode of Bluegrass State of Mind. Guys, thanks for tuning in. Look forward to next week. Could have some special guests that's coming to hop on here with us. We got some big-time golf coming up next week for myself and Kolton. Unfortunately, Mason won't be playing in a big tournament with us.
Not this year.
But enjoyed it. As always, go Cats.
Go Cats.
Go Cats.
That's a wrap for this episode of Bluegrass State of Mind. If you enjoyed the show, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe so you never miss an episode. Also, be on the lookout for our social media pages and be sure to follow them. We've got plenty more stories, insights, and conversations coming your way. And if you really loved it, make sure to share it with a friend. From the hills to the hollers, thanks for tuning in. Until next time, keep that Kentucky spirit strong.